All right, so today we're diving into this pretty bold statement about relationships.
Okay.
The source material says, if someone truly wants you, nothing will keep them away.
Mm.
I don't know about you, but that makes me kind of stop and think, like, is it really that simple?
Right.
So that's what we're going to unpack today.
Okay.
What does real commitment look like, in a real relationship?
Yeah.
And our source for this deep dive is this podcast episode that's all about love and relationships and, how complicated they can be.
It's definitely a statement that, makes you think.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because it pushes us to look beyond just the surface,
Okay.
beyond just attraction or like those first, exciting moments.
Yeah.
And to think about like, what does it really mean to want someone?
Okay, so then how do we define wanting someone?
Yeah.
Because it's got to be more than just, thinking someone's cute.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It goes way beyond that initial spark.
Yeah.
It's about truly valuing having that person in your life, prioritizing their happiness, and being willing to make sacrifices for the relationship.
Like real sacrifices.
Yeah, like would you skip a night out with your friends to be there for your partner when they're having a hard time?
Or what about like choosing to spend time with your partner when your favorite band is in town for like a once-in-a-lifetime concert?
Right, exactly.
Tough choices.
Yeah, tough choices.
And, that kind of brings us back to this idea of effort, which the podcast talks about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
They say relationships need consistent effort, like communicate, trust, patience, all acted out, not just talked about.
And I think that idea of effort being active is so important.
Yeah.
It's about making that conscious choice to put in the work to make that connection grow.
So like watching Netflix together is fine, but are you really engaging with each other if you're not even talking about the show?
Right.
It's got to be more than just being physically present.
Exactly. You have to be emotionally present, too.
Right.
The podcast actually talks about a few specific situations where effort is super important.
Yeah.
One of those is long-distance relationships.
Oh, man, this can be so tough.
They can.
What does the podcast say about how to make those work?
Well, they talk about how couples who truly want to be together will find ways to stay connected.
Okay.
Despite the distance.
So what does that look like?
Lots of calls, virtual dates, maybe even surprise visits.
Wow.
It's about bridging that gap and making sure your partner feels loved and like you're thinking about them even when you're miles apart.
It all comes back to making that choice to prioritize the relationship even when it's hard.
Yeah.
Those late night calls or planned visits or even just a few texts throughout the day. All of that shows a level of commitment that goes beyond just, doing what's convenient.
Exactly. It's about making the relationship a priority even when things aren't easy.
I like that.
The podcast also talks about supporting your partner through tough times.
Okay, yeah, that's a big one.
It is.
Everyone goes through rough patches.
Yeah.
So how does a podcast say we should be there for our partners when they're struggling?
They talk about showing up, listening without judgment, offering comfort, and giving practical support.
Yeah.
And that support can look different for everyone.
So it's about being adaptable, right?
Yes.
Like learning how to support your partner in the way they need support,
Right.
not just the way that's easiest for you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about understanding their love language, their needs, and being there for them in a way that they'll really appreciate.
Okay, but what if you are doing all of that? You're putting in the effort and being supportive, and it still feels like it's not enough.
Well,
The podcast also talks a lot about how actions speak louder than words.
right. They're very clear about that.
Yeah.
Words don't mean anything without actions to back them up.
I think we've all seen that.
Yeah.
Maybe even in our own lives, where someone says one thing, but then they do something totally different.
Totally.
So annoying.
It's like that friend who always says they'll be there for you, but then when you really need them, they disappear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
actions show you the truth.
That's
So we can't just focus on what someone says.
Right.
We have to look at how they act over time.
exactly. Pay attention to patterns.
Okay, so what if their actions are consistently, falling short?
Well, the podcast makes a really interesting point here.
Okay.
They say sometimes when someone isn't putting in the effort, it might not actually be personal.
Wait, really? How is it not personal if someone's not showing up for you?
Well, they talk about the idea of readiness for a relationship
Okay.
and someone's emotional capacity
Okay.
and how past experiences can affect a person's ability to really commit.
Even if they have feelings for you.
Yeah, even if they have feelings for you.
So how can our listeners start to think about this idea of readiness and capacity in their own relationships?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And one we'll dig into much deeper in the next part of our deep dive. So let's talk about some signs that someone might not be fully ready for a committed relationship.
Yeah, because that can be so confusing.
Right.
Like when someone says they want to be with you, but then their actions just don't match up. What are some things we should be looking out for?
Well, the podcast talks about a few key red flags.
Okay.
One is inconsistency,
Okay.
where they're hot and cold.
Oh, yeah.
Like 1 minute they're all in, the next they've pulled away.
Yeah.
It's that lack of, predictability and stability that can really damage trust.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
If you always feel like you're walking on eggshells,
Yeah.
wondering what mood they're going to be in today,
Exactly.
that's not a good foundation for anything.
Another red flag is when someone have a hard time with emotional intimacy. Like they struggle to open up or share their feelings.
So they're like physically there, but emotionally checked out.
Exactly. And that can leave you feeling lonely even when you're together.
Right.
The podcast also mentions that some people prioritize their own needs above the relationship.
So it's like they're always putting themselves first, even if it hurts the other person.
Yeah, it's that lack of consideration for your needs and feelings and goals.
Man, that sounds exhausting.
It can be.
So let's say someone is listening to this and realizing that they might be seeing some of these red flags in their own relationship.
Okay.
What does the podcast suggest they do about it?
Well, they emphasize having honest conversations.
Okay.
Really expressing your needs and seeing if your partner is willing to work on things with you.
I can see how that could be really hard for some people,
It can be.
especially if you're worried about rocking the boat or maybe even ending the relationship.
I get it. But relationships need vulnerability to thrive. You have to be able to have those tough conversations.
But how do you do that without, making it an attack?
Right. It's not about attacking. It's about sharing your perspective
Okay.
and explaining how their actions make you feel.
So you're approaching it like a team trying to solve a problem.
Exactly.
Not like you're trying to win an argument.
Right.
Okay, and what if your partner just isn't willing to have those conversations or put in the effort to change?
Well, that tells you something, too.
Yeah.
It might be a sign that they're not ready for the kind of relationship you want.
And that takes us back to what we were talking about earlier about not settling for less than you deserve.
Yes, exactly.
It's tough, but sometimes you have to walk away.
Sometimes you do.
So for the person out there who's maybe facing that decision right now, what would you say to them?
I would say trust your gut.
Okay.
If something feels off, it probably is. You deserve a love that makes you happy, not anxious and stressed all the time.
And walking away doesn't mean you failed or that the love wasn't real.
No, not at all.
It's just that sometimes things end.
Right. It's a chance to learn and grow and figure out what you really want in a partner.
I like that framing.
Yeah,
It's not an ending, it's a new beginning.
exactly. And sometimes letting go of what's not working opens up space for something even better to come into your life.
Okay, so let's go back to that quote from the podcast.
Okay.
You know the one about rising to the occasion?
If someone truly wants to be with you, they won't run away when things get difficult. They will rise to the occasion.
Yeah, that one. What does it actually look like to rise to the occasion in a relationship?
Well, let's think about that long-distance example again.
Okay.
Rising to the occasion there might mean making those late-night calls even when you're tired,
Oh.
or planning those fun virtual dates, or maybe even surprising your partner with a visit.
Wow.
It's about going the extra mile
Yeah.
to bridge the distance and make sure your partner feels loved.
So you're not letting the distance become an excuse to check out of the relationship.
Exactly. And when it comes to supporting your partner through hard times,
Yeah.
rising to the occasion might look like being a good listener,
Okay.
offering encouragement, or helping out with everyday tasks to make their life a little easier.
So it's about being a true partner.
Yes.
Someone who's there for all of it, not just the good times.
That's what it's all about. And remember, rising to the occasion isn't about being perfect or always knowing the right thing to say. It's about being willing to learn and grow together.
It's not about avoiding conflict. It's about how you handle it.
Right. Are you coming from a place of love, or are you trying to prove a point?
So what are some signs that you are rising to the occasion?
Well, one of the biggest ones is consistency.
Okay.
Are you consistently there for your partner in both words and actions?
Mm-hmm.
Do you follow through on your promises?
Yeah.
Do you make an effort to see things from their point of view?
Because that builds trust.
It's just trust is the foundation of any healthy relationship.
What else?
Mutual respect is another big one.
Okay.
Do you value your partner's opinions even when you don't agree with them?
Yeah.
Do you respect their boundaries?
Right. Creating that safe space.
Yeah, exactly. And finally, pay attention to how your partner makes you feel.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, do you feel loved and supported and appreciated?
At the end of the day, your relationship should bring you joy, not make you feel stressed out and insecure all the time.
Right. So if you're feeling that way, it might be a sign that something needs to change.
So let's switch gears for a minute and talk about what to do if you're seeing some of those red flags we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who's feeling lost and not sure what to do?
Well, the podcast really emphasizes listening to your intuition,
Oh,
that gut feeling
yeah.
that often knows what's up before our brains do.
It's like that little voice that says, something's not right here.
Exactly. Don't ignore it.
Okay, so you've acknowledged those red flags. Now what?
Talk to your partner.
Yeah.
Open and honest communication is key for any relationship issue.
Right, but I bet that's easier said than done for some people.
It is.
What if you don't like conflict or you're worried about hurting their feelings?
I get it. But you have to be vulnerable if you want a healthy relationship. You got to be willing to have those hard conversations.
Okay.
And remember, you're not attacking your partner. You're sharing your perspective and explaining how their actions are affecting you.
So approach it as a team working together.
Exactly.
Not like you're fighting each other.
Right. And if they're not willing to have those conversations or put in the effort, that's important information too.
What do you mean?
It might mean they're not ready for the kind of relationship you're looking for.
Which brings us back to that whole idea of recognizing your worth and not settling.
Yeah.
You were saying earlier that we teach people how to treat us.
We do.
What did you mean by that?
If you're always accepting behavior that doesn't feel good,
Yeah.
you're sending the message that it's okay for them to treat you that way.
So we have to set boundaries.
Yes, be clear about what you will and will not accept.
And sometimes setting those boundaries means walking away.
It can.
Yeah.
And as hard as that is, it's an act of self-love.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
So for our listener who might be at that point, facing that choice, what would you say to them?
Trust your gut.
Mm-hmm.
If something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't.
Okay.
You deserve a love that brings you joy, not anxiety and heartache.
Yeah.
And remember, ending a relationship doesn't mean you weren't worthy of love or that the love wasn't real.
It's just that chapter is over.
Exactly. It's a chance to learn and grow and figure out what you truly want in a partner.
And to be open to something even better.
Yes.
Let's go back to that quote one more time.
Okay, the one about rising to the occasion.
Yeah. If someone truly wants to be with you, they won't run away when things get difficult. They will rise to the occasion.
Such a good quote.
It is. It really sums up everything we've been talking about. Like,
Right.
It makes you think about your own relationships.
Are we really showing up for each other?
Are we willing to put in the work, to communicate, to support each other through tough times?
Because love isn't just a feeling.
It's a choice.
It is a choice we make every day.
Yeah.
To nurture the connection, to grow together, to face challenges as a team.
And to find someone who makes that same choice.
Yes, someone who rises to the occasion with you. That's truly special.
It really is. Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the ups and downs of commitment.
My pleasure.
We really got into what it means to want someone and to be wanted in return.
Yeah.
And to our listener, remember, you are worthy of a love that sets your soul on fire, a love that pushes you to be your best self.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Never settle for anything less. Until next time, keep diving deep, keep questioning, and most importantly, trust your heart to guide you to the love